Hey, welcome to episode 2 of Through It All, I've Got You with Mark and Sharanda. Today we're going to talk a little bit about communication and what that leads to. How was your day today?
My day's going well. How was yours?
It was good. It was good. That's communication, people. You got to start with that.
101.
101. So we'll jump right into it. And at the end of this, we'll talk about what's coming up on our next episode. We'll leave you a little teaser. But as we wanted to jump into communication, it's one of the top 5 reasons why couples divorce. And we want to stave off divorces. We want to talk about the things that you need to look out for and talk about the things to implement if you're not doing or to get better at if you're already doing. And communication is a major factor. Start with just a question posed to you all. Communication leads to blank. Now you fill in what that blank is. The blank can be understanding. So communication leads to understanding. Communication leads to intimacy. Communication can lead to clarity, to laughter, to forgiveness. It can lead to purpose, to longing, to desire, to frustration, confusion. Imagine that communication leading to confusion. That's probably what you're trying to avoid. It can lead to openness. It can lead to a plan of action. It can lead to happiness or whatever else you want to fill that blank in with. That's what communication can do. I did some research and I found dictionary.com listed communication. It gave the definition, and I want to give that to you so that we have a baseline. And so the definition of communication is the imparting or exchanging of information or news. So we see that all the time in media. We see that all the time on radio. We see that right now in this podcast. We're exchanging information through communication. It is also a means of sending or receiving information such as phone lines or computers. Also, I looked up what effective communication is, and it's a little different than what communication. Communication is just the exchange, but effective communication is this. It's the process of exchanging ideas, thoughts, opinions, knowledge, and data so that the message is received and understood with clarity and purpose. I think that's important.
Very, very important.
Clarity and purpose. This last sentence is really what I honed in on. It says, when we communicate effectively, both the sender and the receiver feel satisfied. That's important.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so that's important. So I want to talk a little bit about communication through a story. And this happened early on. You want to tell the story?
So Mark and I worked together uptown, and we carpooled together. I would get to the car before him, sometimes, and I would wait. When we would get in the car, I was ready to tell him about my day. I was like, yep. He was like, wait a minute. He said, if we're going to carpool together, I need at least 10 minutes to decompress. I looked at him like, what? Are you kidding me? I was like, I'm not doing that. I want to tell you about my day, and you want me not to tell you about my day? You want 10 minutes? And he was like, yes, I need 10 minutes. I was like, okay, let me give you your 10 minutes. But it wasn't like I really wanted to give him his 10 minutes. But, it's compromise. I was like, okay, I'm going to give you what you need. And so I did. And he told me if I couldn't give him those 10 minutes, then maybe I need to drive my own car to work. And he would drive his car. So, I gave him his 10 minutes.
I remember it a little different. The basis is there. But how I remember is that when I said, hey, you got to give me 10 minutes, you came back with some words. You let me know that you weren't happy with what I just asked you to do. You did say, I said, hey, we can drive. I still want to date you. I don't want this to destroy the relationship. I need that time. And so the next day, this is how I remember it. It may not be accurate. I think this is clarity though. You gave me, you started. Not right away, but it wasn't the 10 minutes. And I was like, whoa.
I caught myself.
You did. And I was like, and I was like, hey, come on now. And so you said, all right, no problem. I don't like it, but I'm gonna give you what you asked for. And so the third day, we met at the car, and I distinctly remember you. Maybe you don't remember this. You looking at your watch, phone. I don't even think we had phones. I think we had phones back then. We may have had phones.
We had
cell phones.
Yeah.
So you might have looked at your cell phone or looked at your watch, and to me, it was at 9:59:59. You started. Boom.
I don't think I started exactly at 9:59. I think I gave you a little bit over what you asked for.
That's where we differ. And I respect that.
It's the truth. I gave him a little bit more than what he asked for.
You can't just start with that's the truth, because my truth might be it may be true to me too.
You're not telling the truth.
I don't think I'm telling the story. Whenever the time she started, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then she said, listen, if you needed 20, you should have asked for 20. Right. And that statement made me think. I said, you know what? You gave me exactly what I asked for. And so I need to give you what you need. You needed to communicate. You needed to tell me about your day. And I needed to listen. And from there on, I learned compromise was important. Speaking what you want is important, and what you need.
It is.
I listened, and that's another part of communication, and I want to jump into that.
But I want to say, like, you got away from that because we worked together again. When we got in the car to go home, it was different. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was different. We were married then.
What was the difference?
I don't know.
No, you said it was different. So what do you mean by what the difference was? What was the difference?
You allowed me to talk.
I didn't need the 10 minutes?
You didn't need the 10 minutes.
I don't remember that. Was that when we worked with the kids?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Mm-hmm. So I grew.
You grew.
You didn't grow. You just had to keep going. All right, well, that's a good point. I didn't think about that until you just brought that up, that, we did work together again. And, maybe at Bank of America, we didn't work together. We both worked for the bank, but not in the same department, right? But this second, when we really worked together, we actually worked under the same roof,
right? Doing
some of the same, working in tandem towards a goal. That's interesting that you point that out. So that was growth, or that was a change that happens. And that's one thing in marriage. You mature, you matriculate, you change, you go through seasons, and maybe that season where I didn't need that anymore, and then it may be another season where you need that again. I don't know, but thanks for pointing that out, babe. Now, when we look at what the effective communication was in that first example, we talked about active listening. So that's one of the effective ways of communicating is active listening. How do you practice active listening? You give responses. Yeah, girl, I hear you.
I hear you.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And you do that a lot. When you get off the phone with someone, let's say I come home, or if I'm working from home that day, or you're working from home that day, and you'll hang up a call and you'll start talking to me, and you'll yeah, girl, and I'm like, wait a minute, no, but you've been in that zone. Right?
I've been in my zone, yes, and have to catch myself.
So that's one, is active listening. So that's very important when you're talking about effective communication is active listening. That it helps you too, to stay engaged with what's going on with the conversation.
Right.
Another one is adapting your communication style to the listener. People hear in different ways. So, people are expressive. Some people are not as expressive, and you have to continue to learn your spouse, that person you're dating, that you want to become your spouse. You have to adapt to their style. Another one they talked about is friendliness. There can be an opposite of friendliness in communication, right? Where it's harsh communication, and we'll talk about some of the communication problems, and that's I would imagine that's one of them.
Yeah.
There's a few more that I'll give you that we found. Giving and receiving constructive feedback. That is a part of communication. Now you make that face. Why you make the face?
Because sometimes that's hard to hear constructive criticism. Someone, especially someone that you love is giving to you, and you try to hear what they're saying and not look at them as the villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and I think about this a lot. If you have children, everyone doesn't, but if you have children, you know that you may have told your child something and they don't hear you. They hear you, but they don't adapt to it, or they don't implement it. But someone else can tell them that exact same thing. I can see you nodding your head as I said this, because it's happened. Someone else will tell them and they get it. It's the same thing with your spouse, your significant other. Someone can give them the same information you give them, even that constructive criticism or constructive feedback, and they get it, but they don't get it from you. Now you have to think about yourself in this situation. Do you care that you gave the message and they got it from you, or do you care that they get it? Now, if you only care that you gave the information, maybe you need to kind of look at yourself and say, what's the point is that they get it, no matter how.
Yep.
That's one. Confidence is another. You want to be confident when you're giving communication, when you're communicating something, and that's not only with your spouse, but that's just period. Now, if you're wrong and you're communicating something that's dead wrong, confidence isn't going to help it be right. But you want to be confident and right. Three more I'll give you about effective communication real quick is volume and clarity. Now, volume is one that some people have a lot of volume naturally.
Right.
Some people don't.
It doesn't mean they're yelling or screaming. They're just, the volume, the way they, they speak, project. So it's not they're screaming or yelling or,
That's right. And maybe they're excited.
Sometimes I get passionate about what I'm saying.
Two more, empathy and respect. So when you communicate, you want to make sure that you're communicating with empathy and respect. And then the last that they talked about was understanding nonverbal messages. If you can see that person isn't paying attention, maybe they're watching TV and they're into a show and you come in and you start communicating and they just haven't fully heard you, maybe give them that time to watch that or see if they can pause it if it's something that's very important, or if it's something that can wait. That's a part of it too. Is, hey, let me communicate when they can give me their undivided attention.
Right. I want to go back to the empathy and the respect. If your spouse comes to you, they're telling you something, they're communicating something that bothers them, you laughing or joking about it, that's not helping your spouse. So you're not being respectful in that manner, or you're not being empathetic to what they're trying to tell you to help a situation. So, think about that when your spouse comes to you and they're trying to communicate something to you, if they're feeling or something that was said or the way you acted. Always, try to be respectful and be empathetic to that other person.
Great point. Now we're going to look at the opposite. What are some causes of relationship communication problems? And it's almost a one-for-one opposite of what we just talked about with effective communication. So this wasn't one, but it could be one. Too much screen time. On your phone when someone is talking to you, you're going to send the wrong message and they're going to get the wrong message, and it may cause that volume to go up in not a passionate way. Well, it could be passionate, but a different kind of passion when you're not paying attention to them.
True.
So maybe there's a rule at the table where you don't have phones when you're eating, or maybe in the bed. When you go to bed, you put your phones down and you focus on each other. I know some couples don't have TVs in their bedroom. Mm-hmm. So whatever works for you to make sure that you get that time to communicate, because that screen time can pull you apart.
Absolutely.
Casual jealousy. This is one that was written about a little bit. Casual jealousy is, let's say that you get jealous if your significant other is finding enjoyment in other things, and you get jealous of that. We talked in the very first episode about having your own things. It's important that you have your own things and not everything is centered around your spouse. Well, if you're jealous that they are in a bowling league, or you're jealous that they have a friend group that they do things together, and you start to get jealous around that can cause some communication problems where every time they do that and they tell you about it, I don't want to hear about it. I don't care that you bowl at 300. I don't care anything about that. That can cause communication problems. And now the person that's enjoying that and wants to share that enjoyment with you is turned off.
Right.
Because you don't want to hear it. And you want your spouse to have joy, not only with you, but you want them to have joy around other things as well.
Yeah.
Unrealistic expectations. I skipped one first, is harsh words. And I think we touched on that. You touched on that. So harsh words, how you speak to each other is so important.
It is.
Unrealistic expectations, wanting them to solve all your problems or wanting them to do things that you can't even do. Right. So you want to be realistic.
I want to go back to the harsh words. I know.
I didn't say anything harsh today.
No, you didn't say anything harsh.
Right.
But I want to go back to that. There was a saying you would say, a soft answer turns away wrath, right?
Right.
You used to tell me that because sometimes my words wasn't harsh. It's my delivery. Sometimes when I would come to you about something, so you would say, a soft answer, because I am the rah-rah one. I can say that, but I have calmed down a lot.
Okay, go ahead. If you feel that you've calmed down.
I've calmed down a lot. I don't hit them. I don't abuse them or nothing like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying rah-rah with me. Maybe no, behind the wheel,
Oh yeah, I have a real bad road rage. But no, but and that clicked with me when you say, a soft answer, because you're very calm, mild manner. That's your temper. And mine's is more, upbeat, more like I say, rah rah. I always say rah rah, but not real rah rah to that point. But you would say that a soft answer turns way rap, and that has always stuck with me. When there is something that really bothers me or affect me, I try not to come at you, in the wrong way.
I appreciate that. I know you said you tried, it didn't always happen, right? But I understand that you have that energy behind it.
I do.
And so I had to learn that that energy is not necessarily directed at me. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's deserving. Sometimes I felt like it's not. Those are, y'all know what happens. So we just have to deal with it and work through it. But I'm glad you said that, because if you do have, you all can be polar opposites, and they say opposites attract.
Right.
And the opposite could be the way you communicate. And you said it, I am calm by nature.
You are.
I can go there when certain things will make me, and there are things that I just don't, it doesn't bother me. There's things that people do that won't bother me. The things that bother me are things that affect my family. That's when I turn to a different notch. But other things, I just like, man, people are people. I use this saying, and I used to use it when I coached basketball. It's a saying called a remote control.
Mm-hmm.
And what I used to tell my players is, I used to ask them, what does a remote control do? And it does all kinds of things. If a television remote, for instance, it can turn the television, turn the channels rather. It can turn the volume up, turn the volume down. It can go to different inputs in your television. It can change the look and feel of the television.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to tell the players, hey, who has your remote? And what I meant by that is on the court, if someone realizes that they can get under your skin and cause you to act a certain way, you just gave them your remote. Right. And most people that get your remote, especially in competition, they're going to use it.
Oh, yeah.
To your detriment and to their advantage.
Yep.
And so I've been so cautious about who I give my remote to. And that's in communication and anger and things like that. I try not to give my remote to anyone, because they could abuse it and have me doing things that I don't need to be doing. That's probably why I'm calm by nature, is that I'm cognizant of who has my remote.
That's good.
Appreciate it. Another is hiding feelings. In communication, if you hide your feelings with your significant other, your spouse, that person that you're dating, how can they be an advocate for you? How can they empathize with you? How can they build you up? How can they even speak into you to help you get a different perspective? We are joined for reasons, because I have a view and you have a view.
Yep.
And a lot of times they're different, and there's nothing wrong with different. Isn't bad, it's just different.
Different.
And it gives you a better perspective. So
yep.
Don't hide it. If you are hiding things, maybe it's because of past hurt, maybe because of other relationships, and you have to, once you know that this person is what I call down for you to the very end, that's when you can start to let that guard down and just share.
Yeah.
And hopefully they don't scar you. And if they do, it may not be intentional.
Sometimes I think the reason why people hide their feelings, they're scared to open up, scared to share, scared of what might happen.
That's right.
So.
That's right. A few more. Making them responsible for us. You have your part, they have their part.
Yep.
Don't make them solely responsible for the relationship, and that can cause communications. Own your feelings.
Right.
You got to own your own feelings,
Sure.
and you got to communicate them. He or she can't read your mind. You got to express it in a way that they can receive it.
Right.
So express it in a way they can see it.
Yeah, when you have a situation like that, especially when you're trying to communicate, how you're feeling about a situation or whatever it is, and make it I feel like, and not blame the other person. You're not pointing fingers, at the other person. They can just say, I feel or I think. So you're not saying, hey, it's you, blah 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 blah.
You were just pointing at me. Did you mean that?
No,
Okay.
I didn't mean. I was giving an example.
Oh, all right. I'm just checking. Not knowing their love language is another that can cause relationship communication problems. So not knowing their love language, how they like to be appreciated. So if you don't know, or if you can't remember what the 5 love languages are, I'm going to list them out for you. The first one is words of affirmation. So these are just kindness, kind words. Thank you. I appreciate you. All that you do for the family, you for me. That's words of affirmation. Some people, they thrive in that. Some people, they don't need it. But you have to ask and know what that person needs. Acts of service, pretty self-explanatory, but that's just doing things without being asked.
Right.
If you are, let's say in the household, one person is cleaner than the other, one person usually does this, maybe you take on that responsibility, that burden for them, and you'll see how much that other person appreciates it.
Right. I agree.
There's husbands that do a majority of the cooking, men in the relationships. There's females that do, and there's couples that don't do no cooking. But maybe if you're one or the other, you let me take care of this for you tonight. I got it.
It goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
Gifts is another. That's the third. So gifts, and it doesn't have to break the bank. Something small, something you do for me. I appreciate you. You'll sometimes go and surprise me with a Reese's cup or some cookies or something like that, and I try to surprise you with some Starbucks here and there. So we just, small things make a difference. Quality time. Quality time is a myriad of things, and it's whatever that person likes. That person may just want to watch a show together.
Yep.
They may want to walk around the neighborhood together. So whatever that quality time is for that person, that's the fourth. And then the fifth is physical touch. Knowing that that person likes physical touch, or you like to give physical touch, and maybe in the beginning they don't like it, but they come to realize that that's the way you communicate. That's your love language to them, and that's hopefully they won't shun you off, like stop touching me, things like that. So
I'm going to go back to quality time. I know for me, I like to come sit with you while you're watching football, basketball, but I enjoy those things. But just to, be next to you or sit up under you while you're doing those things. Or like when you're outside doing yard work. I don't like yard work, y'all, but I like to go out and talk to him and spend time with him while he's out there doing it or working on the car, whatever it is. Sometimes, I'll go out there and chill with him while he's doing that.
You do. I used to kid and say I was going to get you a bubble because you didn't like outside, like a hamster bubble, and put you in it. Now, I'm going to say this. Now, the thing with the games, I love it that you come over and watch them with me. But then when you start to, how's that a foul? Or that's the wrong call? Or he wasn't out of bounds. I'm like, everyone's, how do you see something so different every time?
Oh, gosh.
And then if I say something, then it turns into...
It does.
It turns into other types of communication. No, you can't watch the game no more. I know when our kids played sports, I would literally sit on the opposite side of the gym just because you had your crew though. You had a crew that you sat with, and y'all would haggle the refs and scream, and I was filming, so it kept me quiet and kept me engaged in the game, and I had just a different view. But it worked. We come together after the game and talk about it. We rode together to the games, but we just knew I didn't want to sit with you during the game because I didn't want to sit. I wanted to watch the game, and you wanted to do your thing. And it worked out.
Do my thing as mom.
Did your thing as mom. I did my thing as dad.
Yep.
3 more, and these are relationship communication problems. So 3 more. Keeping score. Don't keep score. I won this argument. You lost. I did this, you need to do this. It just doesn't work that way.
Or keeping score of something that happened in the past. Remember when you did this, or remember when you did that. So, yeah. Yeah,
it was a while where I didn't want to watch a movie with you. 'Cause you see a movie and be like, I remember when you, I'm like, dog, we can't. It is 3 minutes into the movie and you done brought something up from the past. But...
Or you would sit there and you would look like, okay, is she going to say anything? Is she going to say anything?
God darn it. So we made it through it. And it doesn't happen as much.
It doesn't.
And if it does happen, it's in fun.
It's in fun, yeah.
It's not a scar. It's not hurt. It's not trying to start something. It is in fun. And it's good to be able to look back because we're not perfect. No. We've all made mistakes. We've all hurt unintentionally and sometimes intentionally the other person. And once you've truly healed from it or gotten past it, again, this is through it all I've got you. So through the hurt, through the pain, through the mistakes, once you can laugh at it and say, hey, I was just in a bad spot, or I put you in a bad spot, it helps. But keeping score will keep you in a bad spot. So try not to keep score. Poor listening skills is the second to the last. We talked about that. If you are not an engaged listener, that just hurts the other person. They want to communicate with you less if you're not listening and engaged.
Right.
It just doesn't help. And then lack of empathy. You talked about empathy in the beginning. So if you don't have empathy with that person, they want to communicate with you less. And that's the beginning of problems. If you stop communicating, if you stop talking, you all will start to drift apart, because communication is so essential into any relationship.
It is.
That was a little bit of effective and ineffective. And there's some other, we won't go through all of this, but there's some other things you can look up on your own there and utilize. 7 C's of communication. There's the 5 C's of communication that you'll see a lot of literature on. And some of the 5 C's, all the words don't start with C, which was crazy to me. But the 7 C's of communication, and we've touched on these, which is nice as you expound on this, and then you pull it back in. The 7 C's of communication are clear, cohesive, complete, concise, correct, and courteous. So we talked about each one of those. I think they were covered in the effective and ineffective ways of communicating.
Yeah, I agree.
One example I'll give is, if you've asked me to go get something from the store, hey, would you go pick this up? And it's something that's not a regular item that I know we get all the time.
But sometimes it is a regular item that we get all the time.
That hurt.
But it's true.
It's true.
Sometimes it's a regular item that we get all the time, and you still can't find it, or you don't know what it is.
Well, maybe you didn't communicate effectively.
I communicated effectively.
I don't think you did.
I did.
Okay.
And do.
See, that's what I'm dealing with, people, right here. I'll ask you to send me pictures.
I have to send him pictures, y'all.
Send me a picture of what you want.
Stuff we have used for 20 years. I'll have to send him pictures.
I don't know if you've seen that. There's a commercial on TV. I think it was, it doesn't matter who it is. It's an actress. And she says, in order to remember something, you've got to forget.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's what I'm doing is, something is going out in order to let something in. It's on TV. I mean, it's got to be right.
No, it's not right.
It's commercial. Commercials are always right.
It's Jennifer Anderson said that.
And as we wrap this up, I want to give you, I'm hoping that this is helping you around communication. I'm telling you, when you communicate, it opens the door to so many great things in your marriage. If you can get on the phone with your girls or your boys and talk it up for hours, and you can't do that with your significant other, that's maybe a sign that you need to work on that.
Yeah.
And improve that. Right, that's important.
It is.
Now, there was another example I wanted to give that you talk about, that when I talked about talking to other people, or even in the workplace, if you communicate a lot at work or you have to have time for your spouse as well. You want to elaborate a little bit?
My husband travels for work, and he'll be gone maybe a week at a time. He'll go for a week, then come home. Sometimes on the weekend, then go back out for another week. And then, when he come home, he's tired from traveling. So I told him, listen, I noticed you have all that energy for work. And I said, I need some of that same energy when you come back home. I said, it's not fair to me that the job gets all your energy, but when you come home on the weekend, you just want to lay around, not do nothing, not really want to talk or whatever. And I know you're all talked out because you talk. That's what you have to do for work. But I said, I need that energy. And he's done a great job of hearing me with that and respecting that and giving me what I need.
Yeah, men have a certain number of words a day that we get. And then women's number like triple or quadruple that.
You said that you're allotted.
Yeah, we're allotted so many words, and when you hit your allotment, you don't talk the rest of the day. But we have to learn to stretch that allotment or borrow some from another day. so that we can give it to our significant other. That same energy, as she said.
Yes. Same energy.
So as we wrap this up, Sharenda, you found something. You sent me a website to look at. When I opened it up, it was a divorce website, and I immediately was like, "Wait a minute, we just started this podcast and talked about through it all. I guess we're gonna have to change the podcast up." But it was a divorce website, and the chat box comes up and says, "Hey, how can I help you?" And we're talking about divorce. Or
do you need help with child support?
Child support.
Yeah.
Or, moving out the house. What you need. But in that website, it gave 10 ways to improve communication in our marriage and strengthen our relationship. And these attorneys must realize that this is probably one of the top causes is how they get their clientele.
Yeah.
We're not going to be their clients.
No.
But they gave some good information. And this was from June of 2023. It talked about how do you improve communication in your marriage. And again, we touched on a lot of this, so we won't go all into it. But it did talk about why communication is important in a marriage. It talked about it may seem obvious, but it's really important to understand what it is. And it talks about how marriage is a partnership, and we know that spouses need to be able to communicate with each other effectively to build and maintain a healthy relationship. And it talked about how we share thoughts, feelings, and our needs with each other. And like I said before, even the article talked about it. You may feel disconnected, misunderstood, or unsupported. And that's big when you feel unsupported.
Right.
Without effective communication, resulting in isolation and dissatisfaction. And probably you talking to that chat bot and getting some suggestions on why you want to leave the marriage. I don't think you need them if you're not married yet. How do you lead a relationship?
Right. I want to say that if you're not communicating with your spouse, you communicating with somebody. And and that's not good. So that's why it's important to have open, honest conversations, whatever it is. You have to talk. You have to communicate with each other.
Yes, you do. Or they're going to talk to somebody else.
Or they're going to talk to somebody else.
Hope it ain't the milkman.
Hope not either.
Or the milk lady.
Whatever floats your boat.
Might be the mail lady.
Yeah, I don't know.
How she stay at their house so long? They ain't have no packages. So what they gave is some of the same things we went over. Lack of active listening, using you statements. You talked about that. Mm-hmm. Ineffective nonverbal communication in marriages. So we talked about that. Lack of empathy. We talked about that. Difficulty in compromising. We talked about compromise, how we did it in the carpooling example. But if you always feel like they have to bend towards you and you don't bend towards them because you're different. You have different needs, different wants, different likes, dislikes, but you have to bend towards each other.
Right,
that's what compromise is.
Right, exactly.
And if you're pulling and not pushing and they're pushing and not pulling, it's going to cause problems.
Yeah, marriage is work.
It is work, but it's worth the work.
It is worth the work. It's two people working together. I always call us, we're a team.
We're a team. They gave a couple tips as we wrap this up, and you can use these or you can lose these. As they say, you can eat the meat and spit out the bones. They're good if it fits you. One was practicing active listening. Maybe you're not a good listener and you want to get better at it. Essentially what they said is maybe do an exercise with your spouse that you take 3 minutes and you say, hey, for these 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, I am not going to speak. I'm not going to interrupt you. And let them just speak to you and listen. And then you do the same thing. You reverse roles. Now, if it's hard for you just to listen for 3 minutes.
Maybe get a notebook, something, jot it down. Like, okay, this is what I need to say. Because sometimes it's hard when you're trying to listen and you want to comment on something that your spouse said. So maybe get a book and jot down. Okay, let me write this down. Okay, I need to comment on this. Or
That's right. Whatever you need to do, and maybe tell them, hey, I'm taking notes. I'm listening, but I'm taking notes so that I can respond.
Or repeat back, like, okay, this is what I'm hearing you say.
That's right. Another one they talked about was using I statements, and you said that, Sharenda. I feel, I need, I want can help you express your emotions and needs without blaming or attacking your spouse. And we talked about this already. Nonverbal communication, practicing empathy. Compromise is another.
That empathy has been popping up
it's,
big.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, and it talks about understanding and sharing their emotions and experiences. Something that doesn't affect you may affect them, and you've got to empathize with that.
Right.
You can brush things off, men, and some women can brush things off. People can brush things off, and others take that same situation, and it hits them to their core.
Yeah.
And just because it doesn't hit you
Don't
that
take
way,
it lightly
Yeah.
for the other person.
that's right. Be open to compromise. Avoid criticism and blame. We talked about that. Be open to feedback. Setting boundaries was another that they talked about. So it's healthy communication when you set boundaries that you can respect each other's needs and desires. I don't think this is like, the safe word if you're doing something crazy and Rumpelstiltskin. It's not that kind of boundary. I mean, hey, whatever y'all do, y'all do. I's married now. You can do whatever you want. But, if you need to set boundaries, set boundaries. This one I didn't really get into much. Schedule regular check-ins.
Works for some people.
It may work for some people. If it works for you, I'm not knocking it.
Right.
Thursday at 3, we need to get together. Now, some people may schedule intimacy,
Yeah.
and maybe they need to. Maybe you're so busy that hey, Tuesday at 9, you dropping it like it's hot, and Thursday, and Saturday if we can. If you need to do it. Whatever works. And then the last one they talked about was seeking professional help.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you need to talk to someone, I advise it.
That's right. That, when you think about that, you're passionate about how you feel, and your spouse is passionate about how they feel. Mm-hmm. When you bring in a professional, and it doesn't have to always be a professional or a confidant or someone that can be impartial. I think that's the clue. That's the key, is that impartiality. But someone doesn't have the same emotion tied to the situation. They can give you some honest and open feedback. You just have to be willing to implement it and understand that you can be wrong in this situation.
Yeah.
Because you can't always be right.
You cannot.
You're not going to always be right.
No, you're not. I know for me, I try to, get feedback like from my friends, and not because I'm their friend. I want them to tell me the truth in whatever situation I'm talking to them about. Like, hey, am I right or am I wrong?
Tell her, girls. Tell her. You got a good man. You leave him alone. He right. Tell him.
Not all the time.
Y'all know who you are. One up in Maryland, Fayetteville. Y'all know. Tell her. Mark good. He good. He good to you, girl. He good to you.
Oh, gosh.
So we talked about the listening exercises. They gave 2 other exercises you can do. One is the mirroring exercise. And this is, you mentioned, reflecting on the words. If I heard you correctly, such and such. It's not you in the mirror practicing that you're about to go off on your spouse. That's
Right.
not the mirror exercise. And it's repeating back what they said. And then the last one they gave is, and we talked about this, is actually one of the love languages, is the gratitude. So just giving your spouse gratitude. Yeah. And if it's something that you don't do naturally, they may look at you crazy, like, what you want. But as you do it more and more, I'm pretty sure most people appreciate gratitude.
Yes, absolutely. Want to feel appreciated.
They do. So that's what we wanted to communicate to you all. It is something that you work at all the time. You'll get better at it. You may have setbacks, but don't let that set you all the way back. Just understand. I'd say one of the things you have to learn to communicate is coming when you've made a mistake, and coming in earnest to your spouse, your significant other, and saying, "Hey, listen, I messed up. I dropped the ball. I said something that I didn't mean." And you got to mean it, though. Like, don't just say it to say it. You got to mean it and reflect on it. It's important that you own up to yourself and to things that you've done, because you're going to do something. It's just, you're going to mess up.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. It is inevitable to happen. So make sure that you own up to it. Sharana, what we going to talk about next time?
So next time we're going to talk about investing in your marriage.
401k?
No.
IRAs?
Nope. Not that type of investment.
Okay. We'll see what we're talking about investing in our marriage.
Yep.
So again, thank you for joining us on Through It All, I've Got You. Please like, subscribe, follow us on all podcast channels. So again, thank you for joining us on Through It All, I've Got You with Mark and Sharanda. Take care.
Take care.